Hi there, Steve Kaufman here again to talk about language learning. Today I'm going to talk about noticing our mistakes. And remember, if you like these videos, please subscribe. I talk about language learning mostly. I'm back from my extended trip. I was in Slovakia, I was in Vienna, but mostly I was in Ukraine and mostly I was in Lviv. And I had a fabulous time, and I still remember fondly the city, all the different squares, streets. It was spectacular. I really recommend that people visit Lviv. Now, on my previous video, I said that I was a little, I wouldn't say put off, but I was having my last lesson in Lviv with Solomia. And again, I got the wrong case endings, and so she corrected me, which is good, really. And then we kind of walked through the case endings of different nouns. And it kind of put me off because I was trying to get up some momentum in my Ukrainian. And of course, having spent all that time, I felt that I had improved. And then, of course, she reminded me that I still make mistakes on some of my case endings. And so I said, you know, when she did that, she kind of upset my timing a bit. And if I were just allowed to speak, then I would, it would gradually get better, which is probably true. But I want to change. I want to go back on what I said. I think it is true that going through all the case endings, whether you're doing it orally or whether you're reading tables of case endings, is not a very productive thing to do. Although, you know, you need to occasionally glance at them, but I've done it so often and been so disappointed at my ability to retain anything from that exercise. However, what Solomia did was to make me aware of the fact that as much as I'm speaking Ukrainian and enjoying it and understanding it, I'm still making mistakes in my cases. So I said, you know, I got to do something about that. And what am I going to do? So I went to LingQ, and I went every time there was a noun or an adjective, I saved a phrase. I saved a phrase and then I tagged it. I tagged it, you know, according to the case that it was, either instrumental case or, you know, accusative or genitive. Maybe I got the odd one wrong, but I could go and look it up. And so I got into the habit there of tagging every single noun, every single adjective, but not as an individual word, but as a phrase. That way, when I come across these phrases again, I see them. Plus, I can go to my vocabulary section and call up, you know, locative case or instrumental case and see all the examples that I've saved. And so I'm getting again this concentrated exposure to phrases where one, or in some cases, two cases appear in the same phrase. It made me more aware. And I think that's what's so important, is to start to notice and to be aware. I should say, first of all, Solomia's corrections made me aware that I'm still not as good as I'd like to be with my case endings, made me determined to do something about it. So now I'm tagging all of these and reviewing them. And what's more, on the flight home, I was reading a book in Ukrainian that Solomia had given me, a very interesting book. And there in pencil, I was marking up the book, G for genitive, L for locative, I for instrumental. Every single noun and adjective, I was noticing, forcing myself to notice what that case was. I have the feeling that those things, if I keep doing it, are going to help me notice better, be more aware of these endings and how they act in phrases. I think trying to save individual words and tagging them is less effective than saving the phrases. And of course, at LingQ, in our vocabulary review area, you can review just phrases. You can also review, you know, by whatever tag you have. I think this would be interesting to do in other languages as well. So in my Greek now, I've gone back to Greek. So I'm also trying to tag the phrases for genitive or accusative, which in some cases in Greek is the same ending. And I think this can be done for, verbs in the Romance languages, which cause so much trouble. You can tag for, first person. You can tag it for person, and you can tag it for tense, so that you can review, for example, just the imperfect tense, or just the simple past, or a certain person and a certain tense, and review them in phrases. Now, since I'm not working on a Romance language right now, it's not something I'm going to do. I'm going to stick with Ukrainian and Greek. But if some of you want to try that, I'd be interested in hearing. And again, an extension of this noticing and tagging at LingQ is to, if you have a book that you don't mind marking up, to do the same thing when you're reading in a book. So you're constantly forcing yourself to notice these things as you're reading. Now, I must admit, on the plane, I would do this for a while in my book that I was reading, and then I would not do it for a while so that I'd kind of get more momentum into reading the book, and then I'd go back to doing it. And this is not a matter of 1 or 2 days. I think this is something one has to keep on doing for at least a couple of weeks. But it increases our sensitivity, our awareness, our ability to notice these things, which I expect, especially if we do it with phrases, will translate into an ability to produce these features of the language more naturally. So I just thought I'd comment on that. So again, thanks to Solomia, who, by the way, is a tremendous teacher. And I didn't want to be critical of her. And she certainly triggered a consciousness on my part that I want to work harder to nail my cases. And once I've done this with cases, I may go and do the same with different verbs of motion or perfective and imperfect verbs, those things that cause me the most trouble in Slavic languages. And I can do it in Czech and in Polish and in Russian as well. So there you have it on noticing, sort of a sequel to the issue of corrections. And again, if you enjoy these videos, please subscribe. And I look forward to your comments. And I would be particularly interested if some of you try to do this on LingQ, or at least even marking up books. And if you feel that it helps you, deal with those issues in another language that are often the most difficult because they're different to what we have in the languages that we already speak. Thank you for listening. Bye for now.